My name is Alina, and for the past 5 years, I have lived in a house where silence meant safety and words meant danger. My husband, Rayan, wasn't always a monster, but somewhere along the way, his ego grew so big that there was no room left for my dignity. Our daughter, Hania, was 7, bright, soft-spoken, and gentle. She loved drawing suns with crooked smiles, collecting leaves, and reading bedtime stories. She was everything good and innocent in my world. But to Rayan, she was a mistake. He never said it in front of my father, because my father, Colonel Farouk, was a man who commanded respect, even in silence. But the moment my father left after visits, Rayan's true face appeared like a mask slipping off. One evening, after a small disagreement about dinner being late, just 10 minutes late, Rayan snapped. He grabbed Hania's drawing book and tossed it across the room. "This child is useless! She can't even greet me properly!" He yelled. Hania hid behind me, shaking. I instinctively wrapped my arm around her. "She's just a child," I said, softly but firmly. Rayan's jaw clenched. "And you raised her to be weak, just like you." I swallowed my anger. Fighting only made it worse. That night, I pretended to sleep, but I held Hania close as her tiny fingers clutched my shirt. I whispered promises I had no idea how to keep. The next morning, everything changed. It was Saturday. Rayan woke up in a foul mood, stomping around the house. Hania bumped her knee on the table and began crying, softly, the way she always did. "God, even her crying is annoying," he shouted. He dragged her by the arm, not hurting her badly, but enough to humiliate her. I snatched her back, heart racing. "Rayan, stop. What is wrong with you?" "Oh, now you have a voice?" He laughed mockingly. I didn't answer. I simply picked up Hania, took her to her room, and closed the door. After 10 minutes of silence, I heard his footsteps again. And then, slam, 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 he banged on the door. "Call your father and tell him to pick up his useless daughter," he yelled. I froze. Pick up his daughter? Hania wasn't my father's responsibility, she was ours. But saying that to Rayan now would only escalate everything. Still, something inside me broke. A string pulled so tight for years had finally snapped. "I'm calling my father," I said calmly through the door. "But not for the reason you think." He laughed loudly, walking away. "Good! Maybe he'll finally take this burden off my shoulders." My hands trembled as I dialed my father. He picked up on the first ring. "Alina? Are you okay?" I never cried on the phone with him. I never told him anything. He had high blood pressure, and I didn't want to burden him. But today, I couldn't hide it. "Dad." My voice cracked. "Can you come over?" There was a long silence. "I'm on my way," he said, voice steady but dangerous. I hung up. Rayan smirked when he saw me put my phone down. Perfect timing. When he comes, pack her things. "She's leaving with him." I didn't answer. Instead, I stood at the window, watching the street. 22 minutes later, my father's black SUV pulled up. He stepped out slowly, wearing a simple white kurta, but carrying the aura of a man who had led soldiers, faced enemies, and never bowed to injustice. As soon as he knocked, Rayan rushed to open the door. "Sir," he said, pretending to be polite, "finally, please take your granddaughter. We cannot handle her anymore. She's a—" My father raised one hand. "Just one." Rayan instantly fell silent. "I came because my daughter called," my father said coldly. "Not because of your orders." That sentence alone changed the temperature of the room. I stepped out from the hallway, Hania clinging to my clothes. My father's eyes softened when he saw her. But when he looked at me, really looked, he saw the exhaustion, the bruises hidden under makeup, the fear I tried so hard to bury. "Alina," he said gently. "What happened?" Before I could speak, Rayan interrupted. "She's overreacting, sir. The girl is—" My father slowly turned to him. "Say useless one more time," he said. "I want to see if you have the courage." Rayan swallowed. My father took a deep breath. "You yelled at a child?" he asked quietly. Rayan shifted uncomfortably. "She needs to learn discipline." "Discipline?" My father repeated. "What you need is consequences." Rayan's face twitched. My father then looked at me. "Pack your bags," he said, "both of you." I felt my knees weaken. "Dad?" He didn't raise his voice. He didn't explain. He simply said, "You're coming home." Rayan panicked. "Wait, she can't leave. This is her house, and she knows nothing about handling life alone." My father shot him a sharp glare. "She handled you alone for 5 years. She'll be fine. Rayan's mouth opened, then closed. Hania tugged my sleeve. Mama, are we going with Nana? My father knelt down, cupping her small face. You're coming somewhere safe, my princess. She nodded slowly. Rayan tried one last time. Sir, please listen. My father stood up straight. No, you listen. His voice was low, steady, and lethal. Today you shouted at my granddaughter. Tomorrow you will answer for much more. Rayan paled. My father stepped closer, towering over him. You want someone to pick up the useless daughter? Fine, I'll pick her up. He paused. And I'll pick up my daughter, too. But remember, he leaned in. I'm coming back for you. Rayan's face turned white. And that was the moment everything began. A storm was coming, one Rayan never saw until it was too late. I stood there frozen, my father's quiet, dangerous voice still lingering in the air. The air itself felt heavier, like even the walls were afraid to breathe. My husband Dan scoffed loudly, pretending he wasn't shaken. Come on, he barked, take her and go. I don't want this useless burden anymore. His mother nodded aggressively behind him, arms folded, nose raised like she was smelling something rotten. My father's eyes slowly shifted from Dan to his mother, then back to me. Is this how they treat you? He asked me softly, my throat closed. Yes, every day, every moment. But before I could answer, Dan jumped in. She deserves it. She can't do anything right. She got fired, she can't cook, My father raised one finger. Just one. Silence fell instantly. Did you fire her? He asked. Dan paused. What? My father took a step closer. You said she got fired. But my daughter worked in my company. I would know, Dan stuttered. I meant she quit to stay home like a wife should. My father's jaw tightened. Ah, so you made her quit. Dan swallowed hard. And then, my father continued, voice growing sharper, you insult her for not having a job. Dan's mother suddenly interrupted, pointing an accusing finger at me. She's lazy, my son provides everything. Your daughter? My father's head turned toward her with the slow coldness of a man who had buried monsters before. Madam, he said in a voice that could cut glass. Be silent, she gasped. Excuse me. Do not raise your voice in my presence, my father warned, calm but lethal. You are standing inside a house I bought. A house my daughter allowed you to live in. Dan froze. His mother blinked. I felt the ground shift beneath us. What do you mean? Dan whispered. My father looked directly at me. You haven't told them? I shook my head. He reached into his coat and pulled out a folded set of papers. He handed them to me. Read it, he said. My hands shook as I opened the document. I already knew what it said. The villa is in my name. My father transferred ownership to me 5 years ago, as a wedding gift I was too afraid to accept. And I had kept it a secret, probably because I knew this moment would come. Dan snatched the paper from my hands. What the? No, this has to be a mistake. His mother grabbed it next, eyes trembling as she read. No, this can't be true. My son paid for the renovations. My father cut her off. And my daughter paid the down payment. Every penny. Dan's face darkened, anger and panic twisting his features. You tricked me, he yelled at me. You hid this from me. My father stepped forward so fast Dan stumbled back. Do not raise your voice at my daughter, he warned. Dan clenched his fists. So what? She owns the house? Big deal. She still needs me. She's broke. She's nothing without me. I felt something inside me break. Something small. Something that had been holding me back. I walked slowly toward him. Dan glared, expecting fear. Instead, I gave him the calmest smile I'd ever produced. You think I need you? I whispered. Dan, you don't even know me. What's that supposed to mean? I turned, lifting the second paper my father had given me. This means, I said, handing it to him, you've been living in my house, rent-free, while calling me useless. Dan's face dropped. And this, I added, holding up another paper, is the bank account my father opened for me before the wedding. He deposited money every year, enough for me to live comfortably for a long time. Dan's throat bobbed. You lied. No, I corrected. I was silent. That's different, his mother shrieked. You selfish little brat! All this time we treated you like a daughter, and this is how you repay us? My father stepped between us. You treated her like a servant, he said calmly, not a daughter. And now, he said, turning to me, It's time for you to decide. Decide what? Dan demanded. My father looked directly at him. Whether he stays here another minute, he said. The room went dead silent. Dan stared at me, stunned. You wouldn't, he whispered. You wouldn't kick us out, you're too weak. My father chuckled, a dark, humorless sound. My daughter stopped being weak the moment you called her useless, he said. I stepped forward until I stood inches from Dan. You want the truth, I said. He swallowed. What truth? I breathed slowly, letting the years of humiliation leave my body one final time. You're the useless one, I said. His face twisted with shock. You didn't pay the bills. You didn't maintain the house. You didn't cook, you didn't clean. You didn't support me, you didn't love me. He shook his head. Shut up. You only took, I said. Only demanded. Only controlled. And now, you get nothing. My father placed a hand on my shoulder. Say the words, he said softly. I looked at Dan and his mother. You both have 1 hour, I said. The mother gasped. You can't. I can, I said. And I will. Dan trembled with rage. You think you're better than us? You think you're strong? You're nothing. My father's voice boomed through the hall. She is my daughter. Dan flinched. And she doesn't need anyone who treats her like garbage. I took a deep breath. Your time is up, Dan, I said. Get out. Dan stared at me for a long, burning moment. But there was no power left in him. Only fear. He grabbed his mother's arm. Let's go, he whispered. And for the first time in years, I felt light, free, alive. But the story wasn't over. My father wasn't done, and the truth he would reveal in the coming hours would change everything again. I stood frozen at the bottom of the staircase, staring at the shattered glass scattered across the floor. My husband, Mark, was still yelling upstairs, his voice dripping with anger. Get her out of here! I'm done with her, he shouted. And then silence. I heard a soft, shaky breath. My daughter, Lily, was standing on the landing, clutching the railing with trembling fingers. Tears streaked down her small, pale face. She wasn't just scared, she was terrified. Mom! She whispered, her voice barely audible. My heart cracked. I ran up the stairs and wrapped her in my arms. Shh, baby, I'm here. You're safe. Mark leaned against the doorframe of the bedroom, arms crossed, jaw tight. You spoiled her, he spat. She's 12, and she still acts like she's 5, crying, dropping things, messing everything up. I won't tolerate this anymore. She's a child, I said through clenched teeth. She's a burden, he muttered. That word burned through me like fire. A burden, my daughter? The girl who brought light to every room she entered? The girl who wrote sweet notes and slipped them into my purse? The girl who stayed up late drawing pictures of our family? But Mark didn't see any of that. He didn't want to see any of that. Enough, I said, lifting Lily gently. She's not staying here, Mark smirked. Good. Take her to your father. Maybe he can deal with a useless granddaughter. I froze. Because that was the moment Lily let out a small gasp. She heard every word. And something inside her broke. She buried her face into my shoulder and sobbed uncontrollably. Stop, I whispered sharply to Mark. Just stop talking, you've done enough damage. He shrugged as if throwing away a piece of trash. I'll pack her things. You can pick her up tomorrow, he muttered, turning away. No, I said firmly. We're leaving now. His head whipped back. What? You heard me. He blinked, stunned, I finally snapped. But I didn't care anymore. His words were knives, his anger was poison. And he had aimed it all at a child who didn't deserve a single ounce of this cruelty. I hurried to our room, grabbed 2 bags, stuffed in clothes, Lily's drawings, her school books, and the little teddy bear she still slept with. I didn't care if I packed perfectly, I just needed us out. Lily sat on the bed quietly, still trembling. She wiped her tears with the back of her sleeve. Mom? Her voice cracked. Yes, sweetheart? Did I really ruin everything? My chest tightened painfully. No, I said, cupping her face. You didn't ruin anything. You're the best thing that ever happened to me. Then why is he always so angry at me? Because he's broken, I wanted to say. Because he only feels powerful when he makes others feel small. Because he doesn't appreciate anything except control. But I didn't want her to carry that weight. Instead, I pulled her into a hug. Some people don't know how to love properly, I whispered. But that's not your fault. She nodded slowly, though her eyes still carried sadness much too heavy for a 12-year-old. When we walked downstairs, Mark stood by the front door, arms folded again. "Oh, so you're actually leaving?" he mocked. "Running home to Daddy again?" "Pathetic! Stop!" I snapped, keeping my voice low so Lily wouldn't hear. "Don't say another word," he smirked. "Or what?" "You'll find out," I whispered. For the first time, something flickered in his eyes. Uncertainty. The drive to my father's house felt endless. Lily stared out the window, silent. I held her hand tightly the whole way. When we pulled up to my father's place, a large countryside property with warm lights glowing through the windows, Lily finally looked at me. "Will Grandpa be mad we came?" she asked quietly. I smiled. "He'll be happy we're safe." As soon as we reached the porch, the front door swung open. My father stood there, tall, confident, silver hair neatly combed, his presence commanding as always. He wasn't just my dad. He was a retired colonel, a respected businessman, and a man no one dared to disrespect. But when he saw Lily's swollen eyes, something darkened in his gaze. "What happened?" he asked calmly. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "Dad!" Mark yelled at her, called her useless. Told me to pick up my useless daughter. My father went utterly still. He crouched down, lifting Lily's chin gently. "Sweetheart," he said softly. "Do I look like a man who tolerates anyone calling my granddaughter useless?" She shook her head slowly. "That's right," he said firmly. "You are exceptional. You are smart. You are brave, and anyone who says otherwise will answer to me." Her lips trembled, but for the first time that night she smiled, a tiny, fragile smile. He stood and turned to me. "Go inside with her. Get her warm. I'll take care of the rest." The tone of his voice sent a chill down my spine. "Dad, what are you going to do?" I whispered. He didn't answer. He just grabbed his coat, his keys, and stepped outside. I heard the engine of his black SUV roar to life. My heart raced. Because when my father gets that look in his eyes, something big is about to happen, and Mark would soon learn the one rule everyone in our city knew. You don't disrespect Colonel Harrison's granddaughter. Not if you value your peace. Not if you value your pride. Not if you value your freedom. Because revenge wasn't coming. It was already on its way. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the echo of Daniel's voice. "Pick up your useless daughter!" I woke up sweating, reminding myself I was safe in my parents' house. But safety didn't erase humiliation. And humiliation didn't erase the truth. Daniel wasn't done with me. I could feel it. The next morning, as I sat at the kitchen table, my father placed a cup of tea in front of me. His firm hand pressed gently on my shoulder. "You don't have to go back," he said. "I know," I whispered, "but I need closure." He nodded. "You'll have it. On your terms this time." Just then my phone buzzed. A text message from Daniel. Short, cold. Meeting at the house. 3 p.m. Come alone. My stomach tightened. I knew this tone. This wasn't an invitation. It was a command. My father's eyes narrowed. Let me guess. He wants control again. I showed him the text. He read it once, jaw tightening, and then walked away. I knew that walk. That was the walk of a man planning something. I arrived 2 minutes early. The large gray villa stood in cold silence. A house that once held laughter now felt like a courtroom. Daniel opened the door before I could knock. He looked rough, dark circles, unshaven, tired. But his voice still dripped with arrogance. "You're late," he snapped. "I'm early," I replied. He rolled his eyes and walked inside without greeting me. I followed, keeping my distance. The living room was a mess. Papers everywhere, empty bottles, unwashed dishes. This wasn't the Daniel I married. This was a man losing control. He sat with a heavy sigh. "Listen," he began. "We need to talk like adults." I didn't respond. Let him talk. Daniel rubbed his forehead. "I was stressed. That's why I said those things. That's why I threw your stuff out. That's not an apology," I said quietly. He sighed deeply. "Fine. I'm sorry you felt disrespected." I almost laughed, almost. But the pain was still too real. Daniel leaned forward. "My company is merging with the Harper Group." I blinked. "The Harper Group?" "My father's company, and?" I asked. His eyes lifted to mine. "I need your father's support and his signature. Without it, I lose everything." The truth hit me like a stone. This wasn't a peace meeting. This was strategy, manipulation, desperation. "So you want me to convince my father?" I said. He nodded. "Of course. He listens to you." I stared at him. "You called me useless. You threw my things out. You told me to disappear. And now you want me back because you need access to my father?" He looked annoyed. "I said those things in anger." Stop being dramatic, I stood slowly. No, Daniel, you said those things because you meant them. His jaw clenched. I gave you a good life, a roof, money. I took care of you. I cut him off. You treated me like a burden, not a wife. He slammed his hand on the table. Because you are a burden. You do nothing. You just sit there like some princess waiting to be rescued. Something inside me snapped. I stepped forward, voice steady. I'm not the one who needs rescuing today, he froze. Before he could respond, the front door opened. My father stepped inside. Behind him, 2 men from his legal team. Daniel shot to his feet. You said to come alone. He shouted at me. I lifted my chin. I did, but my father doesn't take orders from you. Daniel turned pale. My father walked in calmly, like he owned the place. Maybe he did now. He faced Daniel with a cold stare. I heard you requested a meeting. Daniel stammered. I just wanted to clear things up, sir. My father sat down, adjusting his cufflinks. Let's clear it up then. The room felt heavy. Like a verdict was coming, Daniel swallowed loudly. As I told your daughter, the Harper Group merger is mutually beneficial. We have strong market presence. Your signature would... My father raised a hand. Daniel fell silent instantly. My signature? My father said softly. You threw my daughter out of her own home, called her useless, humiliated her publicly, and now you want my partnership? Daniel's face reddened. It was a misunderstanding. My father leaned back. You misunderstand the situation, Daniel. This isn't a negotiation. He nodded to his legal advisor. The advisor placed a thick envelope on the table. Inside were documents, powerful ones, damning ones. My father spoke evenly. I already know about your financial inconsistencies. Daniel blinked fast. My what? Your misuse of company funds, the falsified invoices, the attempts to shift credit. I warned you 2 months ago to fix it. Daniel's mouth dropped open. You knew? My father smirked. I always know. Daniel looked at me as if I betrayed him. But he betrayed himself long before. Well, my father slid the final paper toward Daniel. This is your termination notice. Effective immediately. Daniel staggered backward. You can't do this. My entire company will collapse. My father stood slowly, towering over him. You should have thought of that before calling my daughter useless. Daniel's face crumpled. He sank into the chair, hands shaking. Please, Mr. Harper. I'll fix it. I'll apologize. I'll do anything. My father's voice was cold steel. You already did enough. He turned to me. Are you ready to leave? I nodded. Behind us, Daniel broke into tears. Not for me, not for love, but for the empire he just lost. And it was all because of one thing, my father responded. The house was silent, but not peaceful. It was the kind of silence that comes after a storm. Heavy, uneasy, waiting for the next clap of thunder. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the door, still hearing the echo of my father's words from earlier. If you ever speak to my daughter like that again, you'll learn what useless really looks like. And Mark's stunned, frightened face replayed like a loop in my mind. But things had only begun. Just after midnight, I heard his footsteps. Slow, hesitant, unfamiliar. He wasn't stomping around like earlier. He was moving quietly, as if afraid of waking something dangerous. Then he knocked, a soft knock. Emma, can we talk? I didn't answer. He knocked again, louder. Please, just open the door. I let the silence stretch. I wanted him to feel, for once, what I had felt for months, small, dismissed, unimportant. Finally, I stood and opened the door just enough to see him. His eyes were swollen. He looked shaken, terrified. Can I come in? No, I said without blinking. He swallowed hard. I didn't mean to say those things. I was stressed. You know how work has been. I raised an eyebrow. So calling me useless was stress relief? He rubbed his face. It just slipped out. No, Mark. You don't call the woman who takes care of your home, supports you, and stands by you useless. Not by accident. He looked down like a scolded child. But guilt didn't change the truth. Your father threatened me, he whispered suddenly, like that was the real issue. He defended me, I corrected. He humiliated me. He warned you, I said firmly, because you crossed a line. A line I should have defended myself long ago. Mark's jaw tightened. He wasn't used to me having a voice. Emma, he said carefully, I need you to understand something. If your father ruins my job, my future, we'll lose everything. I stared at him. There it was. Not an apology, not remorse, just fear of losing the life I had helped him build. And what exactly would we lose? I asked. The house, the investments, the status. I cut him off. The house is in my father's name. The investments were his gifts, and the status? That disappeared the moment you insulted his daughter. He froze. It hit him like a hammer. You mean we don't actually own anything? No, Mark. My father gifted us security. You treated it like your entitlement. His lips parted, but no words came out. I continued. And the promotion you keep bragging about? The one you say is guaranteed? He looked up sharply. My father owns 10% of your company. He knows the CEO personally, and they all heard how you spoke to me today. I let that sink in. It wasn't a lecture, it was a warning. Mark stepped back, pale. You're kidding. I shook my head. He leaned against the wall, looking sick. So your father came today? To destroy me? No, I said softly. He came to protect me. You made the destroying easy. For once, he didn't argue. For once, he saw the truth. But he still wasn't ready to give up control. Emma, he whispered, his voice trembling. Tell your father I'm sorry. Tell him I'll fix everything. You should tell him yourself. His eyes widened. He'll never forgive me. That's not my problem. He stepped forward. Emma, I need you. I can't lose you. I can't lose this life. And yet, I said quietly, you had no problem making me feel worthless. He closed his eyes, breathing hard. Then he said something that revealed everything. If you leave, everyone will think I failed. I can't let them see that. I stared at him. Not, I love you. Not, I'm sorry, just don't make me look bad. Good night, Mark, I said, closing the door. He didn't stop me this time. I woke to the sound of heavy knocking on the front door. I rushed downstairs and froze. 3 company cars were parked outside. Mark opened the door, still half asleep and panicked. His boss stood there, and behind him, my father. Mark blinked rapidly, confused. Sir, Mr. Anderson? What are you doing here? His boss didn't smile. Mark, we need to talk. Now. They stepped inside, tension thick as steel. I stood behind the staircase, listening. His boss cleared his throat. We received concerning information last night regarding your behavior, at home and at work. Mark swallowed. I can explain. No need, his boss said coldly. Your performance has been slipping. And now your conduct is affecting company image. My father added, his voice deadly calm. I will not have my daughter disrespected by a man I financially support. Ever. Mark turned to me desperate. Emma, please, say something. Tell them. I stepped forward. Mark, all you had to do was respect me. But you didn't. His boss nodded slowly. That settles it. Mark's knees nearly buckled. Am I being fired? Not yet, his boss said. But you are suspended, effective immediately. And your promotion is revoked. Mark's mouth fell open. My father crossed his arms. Actions have consequences. Consider this your last warning in life and marriage. Mark looked between us, broken, terrified, and suddenly, small. Exactly how he made me feel for months. And now, the balance had shifted, completely. The courtroom was silent, so silent that even the hum of the air conditioner felt loud. Every seat was filled. Employees, neighbors, reporters, and even people who had no idea who we were, but sensed that something explosive was about to happen. And in the middle of it all sat Lucas, my husband, wearing the same arrogant smirk he had worn the day he told my father to pick up his useless daughter. But today, he wasn't in control. I stood beside my lawyer, trembling, but not from fear. From the weight of everything that had led to this moment. My father sat behind me, his hand on my shoulder, the same hand that had carried me out of Lucas's house the day I broke down on the floor. Ready? He whispered. I nodded. The judge entered. Everyone rose. The trial began. Lucas's lawyer went first. He painted Lucas as a hard-working man, a provider, a victim of financial stress, someone emotionally overwhelmed by marriage difficulties. He claimed the recordings, witness statements, and documents were taken out of context. Then came my turn. My lawyer pressed play on the first video, the video from Lucas's study, recorded only 3 months before he kicked me out. His voice filled the courtroom, cruel, mocking, venomous. Your daughter can't do anything right. She's a waste of space. Pick her up and take her away. I never wanted a useless woman in my house. Gasps filled the room. The judge's eyebrows rose sharply. My father's jaw tightened, but his eyes never left me. Pride, pure, unshakable pride, shone in them. We played the next recording. This time, Lucas was bragging to his friend on the phone about how he had used my money, my accounts, my inheritance. About how he married me only for connections. How he planned to get rid of me once he had enough. Lucas slammed his fist on the table. That was manipulated! The judge stopped him with one stern look. Sit down, Mr. Grant. Next came the financial records, the ones my father's investigators uncovered. Transfers, forged signatures, debt under my name. The courtroom buzzed again. People whispered harshly. The reporters scribbled faster. Then, the final blow. My father stood up. He didn't need a microphone. His voice carried like a storm. You called my daughter useless, he began. But she was the one who built your company's entire project portfolio. She managed your accounts. She saved your contracts. She worked nights while you partied. She held your family together while you broke it apart. He paused, scanning the room. You said she was worthless. But the only worthless thing she had was you. Lucas swallowed hard. My father continued, voice unwavering. When you screamed at her, she stayed silent. When you crushed her confidence, she forgave you. When you stole from her, she believed you would change. But I, her father, will not forgive what you did. Today, she stands here not to beg, not to plead, but to reclaim everything you tried to destroy. The room erupted in applause before the judge ordered silence. Then it was my turn. I took a deep breath and looked Lucas in the eyes. When you married me, I said softly, you told me you loved me because I was loyal and gentle. But you mistook gentleness for weakness. I was never weak. I was just trying to love you. His eyes flickered just for a moment. But strength, I continued, does not come from shouting, or degrading, or humiliating. Strength comes from choosing yourself when the world tells you to shrink. And today I choose myself. My lawyer handed the judge the final request: divorce, asset compensation, repayment of stolen funds, and restraining order. The judge barely needed 10 minutes. When she returned, she read the verdict with a tone that carried finality. Due to overwhelming evidence of emotional abuse, financial misconduct, and fraud, the court rules in favor of Mrs. Bennett. Full compensation, full repayment, full dissolution of marriage, and Mr. Grant, your actions have been referred for criminal investigation. Lucas's face drained of blood. His lawyer collapsed into his chair. Reporters swarmed. But as for me, I just breathed. For the first time in years, I breathed freely. Outside the courthouse, sunlight touched my face, not harshly, but warmly, like it had been waiting all this time. My father walked beside me. You did well, he said. I was terrified, I admitted. He smiled. Being terrified and still standing, that is called strength. I looked up at him, my voice soft. Thank you, Dad, for not picking me up when he yelled, but for helping me rise. He wrapped his arm around me. I didn't raise a useless daughter, he whispered. I raised a warrior. And finally, for the first time in years, I believed him.